And I'm going to pass the gavel to Ann Stutz, you lucky lady.
Got it.
No, not yet. We haven't started.
Sorry, I grabbed it out of your hand. You can have it back.
Oh, okay, I'll take it back. All right. This is our electronic meeting script. The Fairfax County History Commission Ethnic and Oral History Committee meeting is being held on July 15th, 2021. I call the meeting to order. Audibility of members' voices. To conduct this meeting wholly electronically, the Ethnic and Oral History Committee needs to make certain findings for the record to evidence our compliance with all applicable laws. These motions address this compliance. First, I'm going to conduct a roll call and ask each board member participating in this meeting to state your name and your location. I ask that each of you pay close attention to ensure that you can hear each of your colleagues. So the roll call is beginning with Ann Barnes, Sally Lyons, Ann Stutz.
Ann Stutz in near Vienna.
Okay. Barbara Peters.
Barbara Peters, Annandale.
All right. Subi.
Subi Mehdi McLean.
Cheryl Ann Ripetti.
Cheryl Ann Ripetti headed towards Centerville.
Very good. On the road. Phyllis.
Phyllis Walker Ford, Clifton.
Call Sally. Tammy and Lynn will not be able to attend tonight for various reasons. Lynn thinks she's going to be 39 again. And I'm Esther McCullough of Sully District. Did I get everyone? I think I did. Okay. I'm so happy to have you in this meeting. At this point, I will pass the virtual gavel over to my acting vice chair, Ann, so that I may make the appropriate motions. I move that the Ethnic and Oral History Committee certify for the record that each member's voice may be adequately heard by each other member of the board.
Oh, second.
And carry my motion through.
Oh, that's right. No, I take the gavel so that you, as chair, can run the meeting, run the motion. Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. So second, I move that the Ethnic and Oral History Committee certify that the state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for this committee and the public to physically attend this meeting in person. And the usual procedures cannot be implemented safely or practically. As a result, I further move that the Ethnic and Oral History Committee conduct this meeting electronically through a dedicated video and audio conferencing line, and that the public may access this meeting by calling 1-415-655-0001 and using the password the sign on 179-840-7558.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The need to dispense with FOIA's usual procedures to assure continuity in government continued operations. Finally, I move that the Ethnic and Oral History Committee certify that the matters on its agenda today relate to the COVID-19 emergency itself, are necessary for continuity in Fairfax County government, and or are statutorily required or necessary to continue operations and the discharge of the Ethnic and Oral History Committee lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Got my gavel back.
Got it.
Thank you. Okay, this role playing will go away when we have to meet in person, I guess.
Well,
Or
it
who
won't-
knows with the virtual.
It won't be near as fun.
No, those big words kind of trip you up. What I did was to send somewhat of an agenda. My meetings are somewhat loose in that they vary from time to time when we do meet. And what has happened is, let me start by giving the purpose of the committee, because we set that up and I want to make sure Soupy knows what we've said in the past. Our committee purpose is set forth in the bylaws. The purpose of the committee is with this oral history project to collect and present personal oral history and recollections from the Fairfax County citizens that have not been highlighted in our history, with a focus on Fairfax County history. We started with the board of supervisors that are retired so that those citizens would have an example, a model for how it should be done. The last meeting that we had, we did not have a quorum, so we just discussed the project and what it could mean going forward. Because when we spoke in 2020 as a committee, we had several items. There were several steps. The first was to interview the retired board of supervisors, and then to interview some citizens that were seniors, because we want to get their input before something happens to them. And then to have citizens interview citizens. In other words, they do it in their district, and some districts are ahead on that. I think Springfield, and certainly over in McLean, some groups have already started their oral history. There are some in Vienna, aren't they?
Yeah, we've done a fair amount. You're getting at one of my favorite parts of this is that you know, as 20 people, we can't interview a million, we can't cover a million people, but if we can inspire and train groups and historical societies and all, you know, we've had some good conversations about that over the time too, haven't we, Esther? Just
Yes.
ways to leverage ourselves, because mean, I love this Board of Supervisors project because it's very, very focused. I love it. Although it's not really getting to the ethnic aspect since
Right.
many people are not anything other than old white people. It's
Come
I mean,
on,
it is.
Ann.
It just is. Sorry, I don't mean to be judgmental or anything. It's just kind of an observation.
It's kind of what it is, but you didn't have to say it. We're being recorded.
Sorry, but it just, I mean, it's really important and it's really fun to do. Was this the one that was Bob Beach's project? His recommendation at some point last year?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, I remember that. But yeah, we are a multi-pronged effort, aren't we, Esther? You've been, it's like been wrangling cats with all of us because we've got a lot of good ideas. Mm-hmm.
Yes, this has gone on for quite some time. When I first joined the commission, I had done a pamphlet and looked at African American churches. So I had listed the ones I could find, and I kept saying, "There's got to be more. We got to put more information out there." And then I was with an informal group of citizens, young citizens, that wanted to do ethnic kinds of things. And the place, it didn't get to the commission. So I think the time is ripe for letting people know who we are in Fairfax, who makes up Fairfax, because it's not just one or two ethnic groups. We are multi, and I think more so than any other place in the United States. So I think we should take advantage of that and have people understand each other's culture and background. So that's the ultimate, to be able to get the information out there and have people see other ethnic groups. I think the History Conference does a good job of trying to do that. And this is a real big push this year because the Board of Supervisors is behind it. And the times are ripe in the country for learning more about other people. Anybody else have comments?
I wanted to say, this usually goes at the end, but you're talking about our diversity. We have Vienna's got its multicultural festival on Saturday, and it's just kind of amazing how it's shaken out. We've got a cleansing ceremony at 2:00 by Rose Powhatan and her sons doing a Native American kickoff, and then we've got, I don't know, steel drums and Bolivian performers, and I'll send you the link while we're chatting about the other stuff, because it's just a whole different way to pull in some of the multiple ethnicities that make up this county, which is we are just awesomely diverse, Esther. It's amazing.
The ultimate melting pot.
Really cool.
Yeah.
So, Esther, a couple of things come to mind as you're asking us to comment. The first thing is that if we are to, and rightfully so, let the community know who we are, what our mission is, then we need to do some self-assessment of what our capability is. So in terms of what are we offering as a body? And to me as a newcomer,
Walked, everything.
To me as a newcomer, as you mentioned, the ethnic part has not gone very far. So before we announce it, we need to see what can we really offer in terms of the ethnic side. Second thing that comes to mind is that somewhere I just finished going line by line. I hope Sharon is hearing this, line by line of our website, clicking every single link, reading every single word. And I know somewhere I saw the word 20th century and 21st century history. And in my mind, as we examine 20th century history, that's when the ethnic population just really came in and expanded as a result of the two great wars, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, et cetera, et cetera. So as we examine that period, I think the ethnicity of our community will naturally come out. The third thing is that if you want to look at things as is, so suppose, and I'm really pulling this out of the Netherlands here. Suppose we have 40 ethnic groups, but we don't have the capability of examining the history of 40 ethnic group. So how do we decide which ones are we going to tackle first? So I think for that, we should go to the 2020 census and see which are the 5 largest groups. Okay, if we can identify 5 largest groups and then maybe partner with each of the, not each of them, but with 5 high schools and give each of them one ethnic group to examine and trace. But we need to organize and do our plan of action and our visioning and have our ducks in order before we go public or too public.
You're certainly on task there. We've been talking about it, but we haven't really done much about it. Anybody else have a comment?
Yeah, I think most of our committees have been reactive. So whether it's markers or whatever the history projects, it's what the community raises for our consideration. I don't think we have ever spent, at least in my time, any effort to do the identifying or focusing. I mean, we have just responded to the communities that have sought recognition in some shape or form.
Yes, as probably the one on this committee that's been in the longest. I think Lynn and I are right behind Elise. We have only responded. We have not really gone out there digging and getting information out there as much as we could. I think the makeup of the commission has really changed. It's evolved so that we have the diversity more than we had in the past. In fact, there were 2 or 3 commissioners about 15 years ago that wanted to delete this whole committee because they didn't see a need for it. Yeah.
I think the fact that I really like the theme that the history conference is taking, we are, what's it sound like? We are
Fairfax County.
Because that's pretty cool if we could find a way to kind of connect with that or take advantage of that theme. Because it all goes together so well. I don't know if you guys have all read Tom Gelton's book. I have it upstairs, or I show it off to you. I might go get it if we. It's called Nation of Nations, and he's the NPR reporter who took the effect of the 1965 the changes in the immigration laws in What are we looking at? Does anybody see me? I just see some funny thing in my little rectangle.
We
Looks like
see
somebody's
funny things
carpet.
too.
I just see like my carpet or something. It's weird, and I'm not.
Yes.
I'm
I
not touching
thought
it.
you had evolved.
I know. I don't know what it is. Sorry, but it doesn't matter. I'm gonna turn off my video. That'll make me feel better. Um, so this book follows because follows up on the Immigration Act of 1965 and takes 5 families in Fairfax County. He's absolutely a wonderful speaker. He knows his stuff. The book is fantastic. He takes a Korean family through. He takes an Indian family. I forget, there are 5 of them.
The
And one-
Muslim family.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, yeah, he kind of hits the 5 highlights. And what the Korean family is Mark Keem's family, our delegate. And it's just fantastic. And I hope
Give us the name of that again and the author.
Nation of Nations.
Bye.
His name is Tom Gelton, something like this, GJELTEN. I'm sure it's at the library too.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
no, it's a
They-
fabulous book. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he really is touching on just what we've started to talk about right now. He's amazing, and he is a good speaker. I've heard him do some calls this year for some of the programs that Fairfax City's been doing. But so just reading that, I mean, he even had, you know what he had? There's a good part of a chapter on Bailey's Crossroads African American community, and what happened to that when all the immigrants, the different immigrant groups started coming to Fairfax County. That's a really interesting story that he writes up. So I think that just having a skim through that will kind of inform part of this conversation. But it's true. You make such a good point, Subi. If we can find a way to reach out. One time, do you remember, Esther, was it last summer we were talking about maybe making a oral history kit for the library?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, with
Yes.
I think it was
They
2
still
summers
need to
ago.
pursue that.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, shh, stop it. It's not anything, you know, we could always do it. It's along the lines of the Civil War sesquicentennial kit that is in the libraries right now. You know, it's just something to help groups, communities, scouts to launch a project. Oh, and then we talked about encouraging people to use StoryCorps. So we have a lot of ideas, but we haven't really launched many in recent obviously we didn't do much during COVID. But there's it's such an important area. That's why we're all here. We really want to make a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
I think to Subi's point about picking the top 5, I mean, I think the Nation of Nations book really has already done that. You could probably go through it and pick the 5 ethnic groups that are included in that.
that sounds interesting.
When was that book written?
Oh, it was probably within 5 years or something.
Oh,
Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago.
yeah.
Is he local?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
he is.
I think he lives in Arlington.
You know, that's probably a good suggestion for the history conference in the second phase,
He'd be very good. Anything
because
you
Yeah.
we wanted to expand into the different groups that diversify.
He'd be very good. We were planning to have him come to a panel for in Vienna a year, 2 years ago, and then it didn't happen, but it will, because I mean, he just is pretty wonderful.
Okay, please let us know when he does.
Yeah.
But
I
your
want to say,
suggestions. I'm sorry, who was talking? Phyllis?
yeah, I like Subi's idea, and I think it could be combined with looking at the Nation of Nations book.
Mhm.
Because there are so many diversified groups out there. And especially when I'm working with the school teachers, just looking at the number of diversity in those schools
Yes.
is amazing with the number of different
Well, this would
nationalities.
inspire
So-
others to do some work
I
on
think
this.
this would be good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I
So-
think there are other groups that would probably work with us.
Yes.
In addition to the historical societies, like Brian Heinz's AP history class, if we could work with other AP history classes in different high schools, that would help also.
You know, in all honesty, I mean, I love Dahlia Palchik, but I think, you know, her contest for markers might, well, I think it's overly ambitious to begin with, but only because I know how long it takes to actually bring a marker to fruition. But I think a better project would be to get the schools to focus on some of the ethnic diversity in the schools and doing, you know, oral history or interviews of some of these groups. I think it would serve the county way more than, you know, 9 markers a year from each district in a contest.
Well, it may not even need to be an either or, Barbara, because I mean, there may be schools that would embrace this. There was a teacher an 8th grade teacher at Thoreau who did a couple of years of oral history projects with his students, and they ended up with recordings and trifolds and a night of everyone, a big social event. It was so great. And if you were able, I'm really charmed with your idea, Subi, of 5 schools. We just want more things where we set the ball in motion, but we're not doing the work.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
because we really are just this tiny group of people. But if there were more teacher Brians in the world, and there
Yes.
may be, like you say, Phyllis, well, look at all the history honor societies where there are service requirements, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
You really could. It would take meeting with teachers, maybe meeting with students, but you could set a few programs going as long as we didn't get too bogged down. Now, the master of this, of course, is Tammy's son, who did his oral history project for an Eagle Scout service project. So she might share that with us again. Remember, she gave us the link.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
it really wasn't focused on, I'm trying to remember what I remember about it. It wasn't focused in a way that we might want it to be focused, but doesn't mean you couldn't.
Well, but that's where the kits that you were talking about
Right.
would play a big role. If there was an outlining guidance for our expectations, they could focus better.
You know
Some
what?
sample questions, yes.
Yes. This reminds me when we were talking. When we were talking to Tammy about it, we really had said, "Oh, and Scouts are another. Look at all the Eagle projects you need.
Right.
All these kids are all the time looking to spread mulch and paint things. And wouldn't it be more interesting? And wouldn't it be more interesting and more long lasting to present a model scout project like this? And since Tammy's son did one, we could really, that would be a good part of if we decided to do a kit. And if we did do a kit, we could send one to if there was interest, we could say to the sponsor, the teacher sponsor of a history honor society, oh, we'll send you the kit, or we'll, there is
Yeah.
a lot of potential in
Yes.
this for leveraging us.
because it hadn't been done.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate what Sue B brought up, because we need to be very intentional when we do it and have our eggs in a row, and not bite off more than we 20 people can do, because you're not as effective if you spread yourself too thin. So where do we go from here?
So Esther, can I ask, sorry to ask this question,
Mhm.
and I think I'm asking this of every committee that I'm going to. Have we done any visioning exercise or any action planning? Or is that a way to start, like for 2021? See, we have about 6 months left, less than that. What do we want to achieve? And then for 2022, what do we want to achieve? Can we like look at it in a methodical or systematic way?
That would be
Sort of like a
very
mini
good way.
strategic plan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, she sounds
Yes.
just like Greg Wilson's strategic plan.
We have not done that. So that would be very good for us as a committee.
Yeah, I mean, how do we
Yeah.
prioritize? How do we prioritize? If we have 5 ideas, how do we prioritize? Which one do we want to do first?
Well, we've started the supervisors, and it won't be long before I run out of the list of supervisors that are available and able to be interviewed.
Yeah, but that's that's not your ethnic history.
No, but the oral history in tandem, because the Board of Supervisors wanted oral history. They emphasized that. So that's one initiative that we had to bring up. The next could be the kit and the planning.
Okay, so let me ask then.
Mhm.
Do we know when the oral history is going to end? In that sense, we can then plan what the timeline for the kit should be. I'm happy to lead the kit thing, but I'm trying to, in my mind, looking at what else do I have to do? When would this timeline come in before I make a final commitment, right?
And that's an organized way to do it.
Yeah, because we all have other things that we are committed to.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So can you answer when this oral history project will?
We have not planned that well. We tackled this,
Well,
and it
we're at the
depends on
mercy of Channel 16. Yeah.
Channel 16 and the scheduling, because the next phase of this was to be the older citizens, and then have this kit and this promotion for the citizens to do it themselves. So we as a committee need to plan those kinds of things and put the timeline out there. Does everybody agree?
But in terms of the oral history for the supervisors, is this next group that will be done in August, will that complete the original list that we started out with? Is that within that portion?
Somewhat, yes.
project?
There are issues with contacting people, and I think we're gonna have to cut that off with the first 3 and then the next 3 or 4.
Okay.
So right now, I was going to speak on that. We have suggestion from Pam Gardner that if we don't find confirmed interviews by Friday morning, they need that schedule for something else, and we move it to a later date. So I would hate to see it put off like that, but notifying and contacting these retired supervisors is a real job.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah,
they
some of
don't
them-
respond. So maybe they're not interested. I just need to know, are they willing to be interviewed?
Right.
So we can set that. We can cut it off. I think Sue B's suggestion on planning and timeline is critical for the committee.
Yes, especially when we have a new board of supervisors that sometimes picks projects that we have to stop and.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when we talk about oral history, if we do the 1-2 phases and then concentrate on the project with the ethnicity, the diversity of ethnicities, I think we would be better off.
Okay, I agree. Yeah, we had, at one point, you had people that were going to interview, you had someone to interview Dana Kaufman, Kate Hanley. I think there was an issue in finding Joan Dubois.
Yes, and none of those are
And-
confirmed this time. I've done the best to find phone numbers, emails. Even Pam Gardner of 16 gave me phone numbers. And if I call and leave a message and they still don't answer, all I can do is call back tomorrow morning and say, I'm following up.
So at some point, we would, if they're not responding, we would let that go and move on.
Yes, I think so.
So we-
And
so
then
we may
there are
be
health
close to
issues with some of the supervisors, past
Yes.
supervisors.
It's like with anything, so many of these things, it maybe we'll find that over time we can come back to a few of them, because a lot of it's finding contacts who know them. We're
Yeah,
just
exactly.
we're just totally strangers to these people. They may not check their messages. I don't. It really, each one is a project. That's the
Yes.
trouble, Esther. Each
That's the
one
problem.
each one could take a month of one person's solid calling back, not pestering and leaving a message anymore, just trying to catch them, writing notes. I mean, it's just like any.
Or better, finding somebody that knows them.
Yes.
I'm surprised that people in the current supervisor's office have not been helpful, because that's just crazy. Because we're just.
I've contacted the assistant to Jeff, and he's tried to help. I've made contact with, for instance, Jerry Highland is really, really hard to find, and he doesn't respond. I've got the email, I've got a phone number, he doesn't respond. So maybe he's not.
Did you just say Jerry? Did you just say Jerry?
Yes.
If Sally can't find him, then he can't be found.
Well, Jerry Conley's totally out there. He's just a busy man. And
She's saying Jerry Highland.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Right.
Not Vernon
Yes,
District.
retired. We've got Jerry. We've got Jerry Conley already.
Fine, he's fine. That's why I was surprised.
Well, I mean,
misheard
have
you.
we considered that some of these people might have reached an age or stage where the idea of being interviewed might not be a comfortable situation anymore?
Absolutely.
Yes, we've reached that in some cases.
Well, but that's, you know what, Barbara, that's just exactly why friends of friends and
Right.
people who they know who can say, oh no, don't bother them. Or, oh no, she's perfect. She'd love to do it. here's her
Yeah.
private number. Let me make a
Exactly.
phone
No,
call and put you in touch.
I think that is what we have to do. I don't think our hounding them is going to work because unless we know them personally.
Right.
Absolutely. So
That's
I
why I
will,
said Sally for Jerry.
yes, yes, I will pursue trying to get reactions from these four just to try to get three. Channel 16 wants to do just three because that's all we could get last time. So I think sitting down as a group and coming up with what we really want to accomplish and how long we want something to go on, to have this timeline would be very, very efficient for us.
Yeah. I
Oh,
think that's
there's
the only.
Ann. Hi, Ann.
I think
And
that's the only way we can be successful. Is
Right.
to have the timeline and work that timeline.
And I did hear you, Sue B, that you would work on the kit when we get to that point.
I did slip. I
Caught
did
that, did
slip
you?
that. Well,
I'm
yeah, I
writing
did.
this down.
No. Let me caveat it. I said I did slip that in, but depends on the timeline, right?
Oh,
I mean, are you
yes.
talking
Yeah.
Well,
next
you're
3
going to
months?
have input. You're going to have input on the timeline, so that won't be a problem at all.
Because,
Okay,
because
we're
remember, we
all
have an
volunteers.
AAHI timeline. So we've got several timelines rolling at the same time.
Yes, we've got all these urgent things going on all the time.
And
So
we have,
that's
and
not
we
a
have a
problem.
new one just around the corner. So,
And I think we're the same people. We're the workers
yes,
at this point.
yes.
I was going to say, you've noticed that, have you?
Yes, I noticed that.
I would like
So
to
if
see.
somebody doesn't make my meeting, I understand because my head is going round and round.
Where can I find the toolkit that's been done?
one for Civil War sesquicentennial is on our
It's
website.
in the libraries.
It's-
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can get one in person in the library. If you go on the FCPL catalog,
Yeah.
you can go and check one out. But the ingredients are listed under, I'll just find it again on the website.
Is it Civil War?
Yeah, it's under the Civil War. I think it's under the Civil War sesquicentennial.
Okay, I'll find it. I'll find it if it's on the website.
It's kind of neat. I imagine that in recent years it hasn't been used much, but it was a very popular thing for a while. You know, when it was around the sesquicentennial.
Okay. I'll take a look at it.
Okay, I'm writing that down. We should review the book that was suggested.
I think you'll like it. Oh, there's also
Uh,
so I've got the page. It is under Department Resources. It's Civil War sesquicentennial. It's also got reading lists for adults and children, and it's got the driving tour, and it's got the education kit, and those are available in the regional libraries. And then it's got some related resources. So we could have our own page. That would be kind of cool, Esther, to have
that would be cool.
our own page of oral history resources to do a similar kind of listing.
Now that sounds good. Let me write that down. And to let you know what book we're talking about, it is Nation of Nations, Ann Barnes.
Okay.
By Tom Gjeltea.
E-N.
Ten. Can't read my own writing. It's too late in the day. Okay, so what we're going to do is review that book, because we're talking about once we end this phase of the oral history, interviewing the retired supervisors, we need to plan to be able to go into the next stages. And that's bringing out the ethnicity, the variety, the diversity in the county, because that hadn't been touched. And if we do that, we need to look at doing maybe 5 or so groups instead of trying to tackle every group. Okay, so anybody else that's got the time, review the book, if at all possible, and let's discuss at the next meeting.
One question, Esther, and I apologize for being late. I had a conflict with another Zoom meeting I was in.
Oh, that's okay, I understand.
But Nation of Nations, is this something that we would order from Amazon or
You can get it in the library,
at the library?
Yes.
Mhm.
readily
It's
available,
a
yes.
picture of,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Oh, you're holding the book.
Okay.
Okay.
it's kind of
So-
good.
I don't go to the library yet, so maybe I'll just order.
I think you'll love it.
Why don't you go to the library?
I'm limiting my movements. I'm staying
Right.
home because I don't think I need to expose myself after a heart procedure a few years ago. That's one reason. So I'm just leery of getting out there because people aren't acting right. They aren't doing the right things.
We had somebody come into the Freeman store today and really verbally assault the staff who was there because they require masks. It was very much almost a question of calling the police.
Oh,
It
that's
was
so
so-
sad.
So difficult. Yeah.
It's just like on airplanes, you know, I won't be flying for years at the rate it's going. It's
Yes.
kind of like the wild, wild west out there.
Yes.
So, okay, back on task. So we're going to review the book in anticipation of discussing how we would do the project and what kind of timeline and that kind of thing. And then decide how we would do the kit and when we would expect to do it. But let's discuss that as a group so that we make sure that everybody's input is there. And of course, we know Sally's tied up at this point. She's a worker bee for sure, but she does have her mother to take care of. Now, in this next section, when I talked about the oral history education, that's somewhat the kit. What kind of questions would we ask the citizens that we interview? When we interview the older citizens, we need at least 10 or so good questions that would bring out conversation. And a lot of this oral history interview is about being able to bring it out of the person, but not have them talk so long on one thing that you don't get a variety of answers.
So maybe we can all send to you a couple of questions that we think would be appropriate?
Yes, I started
Or-
listing some. Have you seen my email? Barbara,
Apparently not.
it was today.
So,
So,
You know, of course, you'll want to set the tone as the interviewer. This is your name and then the date and what you're interviewing for. And then the person gives their name and how long they've lived in the county. There's some basic things we'll want. But look at the email, look at the questions and see what other questions might be pertinent to bring
Okay.
Some of
out.
those are the same questions, very similar questions to what Mary and I worked with on the students at North Springfield.
Yeah.
Right.
They were able to do 5 of the 7 people
But
that we
these are
had
the
given
kinds
them.
of things you
So-
want brought out. So if
Yeah.
they don't mention, you know, something, these are teasers that you would want to look at and figure out what to ask them. Okay, so we have assignments. When could we next meet? I don't like to meet if we don't need to, but I think we do need to.
I think it keeps us moving along.
Yes,
Yes.
I think consistency is good. Is Thursday night a bad night for anybody?
That works.
Next week,
Thursday night is not good for me, Esther.
Okay. What is a good night for you?
I mean, Wednesday should be fine. Any night is good for me except for Thursday.
Of course. Okay.
you're talking about the 22nd of July?
I hadn't even gotten to the calendar. Is that the third Thursday?
You're talking in August, though, right?
August.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm wide open.
That would be the 19th. But listening to what Subi is saying, Wednesday is not usually a good night because of church services and activities that people attend. So,
Yeah, I could never meet on Wednesday night.
right. So, what other night sounds likely? Tuesday night?
Tuesday sounds good.
Anybody object to a Tuesday?
It's one of the last available. So
Okay, we better grab it then. Do we want to set a certain time of the month, like the third Tuesday?
that works for consistency, so that it makes it easier for me. I don't know about it.
Now, in the last meeting, when we did not have a quorum, we also talked about a daytime meeting. Is that something we want to consider? But we also need to consider our WebEx and our host. So, and
So, Esther,
evening-
just to chime in, this is,
Uh-huh.
I actually think that by the 3rd Thursday in August, you probably ought to be thinking about an in-person meeting. However, I did hear you express reluctance to, to get out there in public. And if there is a reason that you fear for your safety, under the emergency provisions, that is a reason to not participate in an in-person meeting.
Mhm.
If the Board of
Okay.
Supervisors lifts the emergency provision before they go on August recess, then you may be able to call in remotely, but there must be a physical quorum present, a quorum physically present
Mhm.
to hold the meeting. And it could be that August, they're gonna not rescind the emergency provision. I'm kind of feeling that way, but who am I to say? But I would just be sort of thinking about the possibility of having an in-person meeting. And
In August.
in August, yes. Well, right
Okay.
now, you all can meet in person. That is a choice that you have. And you can just meet in person.
Okay.
But we're using the emergency provisions to allow you to continue to meet electronically for the reasons of health and safety.
Okay. I appreciate that. We have 3 or 4 members, I believe, that take care of someone.
Right, right.
I can't speak for everybody, but I think there are 3 members that definitely take care of relatives that are older or need care and cannot get out in the public.
Mhm.
And that's
And
also a
that
reason
is,
to call in.
yeah, and
That's
that's
a
always a
definite.
reason. Yeah, that's always a reason that you can participate remotely because you all have passed the remote participation policy.
Okay, and
No
then
trouble with that
me,
is
so that
small
leaves a small chance of getting a quorum.
Right, yes, it does restrict your ability to make quorum of the physically present.
So is that something I could write up and ask for an exception for a committee meeting?
It's actually a law.
Oh,
So,
gosh, what
yeah,
are
it's in
those?
the state statute.
Uh-huh.
I'm just going to throw this out here. Not that I'm the most important person, but I will not be in the country on the 3rd Thursday of August. And therefore, if my body is necessary for a quorum, it isn't happening. So when you do your count, just so you know.
You're out August?
I leave on the 14th of August.
Returning when?
September 1st.
Okay, we could go with you and hold the meeting there, but
I'm sure you could.
I'd love to travel,
Good
but
idea.
I don't think that's happening. So
Well, I
will,
mean, not that I'm, necessary for your meeting, but if I am necessary for your quorum, don't count on me.
okay, I appreciate that information because that does affect, as well as the 3 or 4 of us that cannot really go to meetings.
Right.
Uh, so
At the moment, we don't know what August is going to be, what the status is. I mean, Denise is saying anticipates this possibility, but we don't know for sure. So, I think you can go ahead and at least schedule it with the expectation that it can be a virtual meeting. And then, if they do shift and it doesn't, an all virtual meeting isn't enough a choice, then we'll have to postpone till September. So I think, rather than assume that we're going to have to meet in person and we might not have a quorum for August, just go ahead, assume that it's, with the presumption that it's an electronic meeting, and then we'll see what August brings.
okay.
And if we have to postpone until September, we do, but that's, in the meanwhile, we might just be able to have at least one more all electronic meeting.
Well, thank you very much, Cheryl and Denise. I think the next meeting is crucial in that we could get some planning done and get our ideas together in our timeline. So let's for sure take the next meeting to try to do as much planning as we can. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So we're saying August, the 3rd Tuesday, but I didn't get the date. What was that?
17?
17th. So I will send information to Denise to set that up.
What time?
7 p.m. unless you can meet earlier. No? Okay, let's say 7 p.m. Everybody putting it on their phone?
Yep.
Got it.
It's amazing how we use that phone now.
Good. 17. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, my
So
phone
that
put it.
does not mean that we can't communicate with each other in between. If you want to send me something, send me an idea, send me a suggestion, I can then dole it out to everybody else, and you'll know that I'm doing blind copies.
That's
So
good.
when it goes out, it's going to the committee. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not just picking on one person. We're all in this together, sink or swim.
Thank you for using that blind copy, Esther. We appreciate it.
Yes, it makes it so much simpler because it's easy to reply
Yes.
and reply all by mistake, especially on the phone. Let's see, what else do we need to cover? Anything else we need to cover? Any new business? I think we've got quite a bit on our hands. We don't need anything new, do we?
It's coming.
Okay. So, anything else? I don't want to
I'll
stop
share
anybody from talking. Who needs to talk?
Well, I just wanted to, you were talking about Nation of Nations and Tom Gilton. Tom Gilton gives me my 15 seconds of fame. So I was interviewed by him on NPR earlier this year, actually. And there's like literally like 3 seconds of my voice on his report.
Wonderful.
Cool beans.
So,
Was that about religion? Because he's a religion reporter now.
Civic religion. So it was about, I teach citizenship in the nation for the Boy Scouts, for the Park Authority as a Boy Scout program. And so he came to the nation program, and boy, usually those guys, they just kind of like, they try not to sleep openly, on the desk, and they stare out into space. I mean, this is 11 to 17-year-old boys, and we sit them down for like 4 to 5 hours to talk about citizenship. And I have never seen them so alive, so alert, so participating. As that day when he had this big fuzzy microphone to share their views, and it was kind of sad that none of them got to. Oh no, actually they did. There are a couple of kids who are on that little radio piece that went out, but it was about civic religion and this concept of citizenship.
nice. So,
Great.
does it sound like he would be good for our history conference?
Oh, he would be outstanding.
Sure.
I'm sure.
He's wonderful.
Yeah, especially as
Yeah.
we move down the as we get to the later years of the conference in terms of that immigrant population.
Well, we're
Right.
talking immigrant population at the next one, next year.
Oh,
Is it next year? Yeah.
well,
Wonderful.
are you going to start with 20th century immigration or move to? I can't remember what the timeline is for that.
Will be some overlap. Yes, there will be some overlap because we're only taking the American Indian and the African American at this point.
Yeah.
So there will be overlap. Oh,
Yeah,
that
I think
sounds
that
so
we have more African American history to look at too.
Let's not forget, as much as we want to get the 20th century immigration stuff, we still have a lot of untold African American oral histories we might want to not forget that this committee wants to do.
yes.
Because today we got really looking at 20th century immigration, but that's not all we want to do. I just want to keep it out there that we don't forget. that we've got several responsibilities and
Well, yes.
Yeah, I think
But I think the fact that there is such a push on the African American history at this point to the idea of having the committee
yeah.
and the markers and that whole thing, I think if we lay off that a little bit after,
Okay.
you know, we can include the African American in our next phase of interviews,
Right. Okay.
right?
Right. Okay.
So if you start thinking of people, I know Lynn has given me 2 names from Clifton of elderly citizens that know Fairfax County, that lived here, grew up here, that would be good for interviews.
Good.
So if you think of somebody in your district, jot that name down and get the contact information for sure.
And there's some on the list that Mary and I had that the students weren't able to get to.
Okay. Okay. So see,
Use
that
that
could
list
be
too.
included in the next phase.
Right.
I mean, there is so much potential here. There's so much to do because it hadn't been done.
Mhm.
But like Subi said, we got a quota. She's good. We can't do it all. So anything
Okay.
else? Any highlights in your life? I want to share that I have my hydrangeas blooming,
Oh, wow.
Beautiful.
Nice.
and there are even some pink ones out there for you pink lovers. I don't bring those in my house. But one little potted plant has evolved into a big flower bed full of hydrangeas in about 5 years.
You
Wow.
know, I
That's
plant
wonderful.
blue hydrangeas, but
Uh-huh.
I grow pink hydrangeas.
Right.
You have to
It
change
drives
the
me
soil.
crazy.
You
Yeah,
have to
so I've been
change the
told.
soil.
It
But,
depends on the
you know-
acidity, the pH level of your soil.
I know,
Yeah.
but I keep trying to do that and keeps coming out pink.
Okay, I'll help you with that because I love the blue ones. I have
I do
blue,
too.
purple, lavender, and pink all in the same flower bed.
Wow,
Amazing.
nice.
I have
Yes.
some blue
Well,
hydrangea in front of my yard too.
Oh, do you?
I will
Yes, I
take
do.
all the advice I can get on how to make mine blue.
Okay, great. And you can come get some pink ones anytime.
Okay, I'll remember that. Thank
Come.
you.
Just come to my house and just get the pink ones. You don't even have to let me know.
Thank you.
Well, you've been marvelous. Thank you for this good meeting. I appreciate it. And I think we have a lot to do, but we can do it.
We do.
Anything else?
Great meeting, Esther. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
Yes.
good night. And I look forward to talking to you soon because I'll need interviewers if I get somebody to interview.
Let us know.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Good night.
Denise. I don't think she heard me. Denise?